Hey guys, I might look a little silly because I just woke up, but I have a 2-day market and the first day is today. It has already been kind of weird and yesterday was an insane day. So I thought that we had to set up yesterday. Because in the email it said like you have to check in between 3 and 7 on Friday and you have to be set up by 7, which I thought was strange, but since it said like you have to, not you can, I thought that meant that was my chance that I had to set up, I had to do it. So my boyfriend had to get off work early and we had to go over there and set up the tent, and then while we were there, I only talked to one other vendor and they said the same thing. They thought that they had to set up today. And then one of the people that was in charge of the event was like, no, people can set up Saturday morning if they want. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I wish I would have known that, because I would have just set up everything on Saturday like a normal market. Like, I did not need to set up stuff the day before. So anyways, the tent and the tables are there. The rest of the stuff we have to take today. And my dad is driving me today, so he is almost here, and then we're going to go to the market. I really hope that this one will be good, but I'm not sure. I thought this would be a really big event, and it is more expensive than most of the events I do. But even today, looking at the event on Facebook, it only said like, I think 500 or 600 people were interested and 85 were going, which is not great, because most of the like smaller events I do, it usually says like 1,000 or more people are interested in it. So hopefully more people are actually going to go than it says, but it's also on OU Campus Corner, so there will probably be a lot of college students there, I'm thinking. So hopefully it goes well. I will definitely get some videos while I am there, and I will see you in a little bit. Hey guys, this is part 1 of my 2-day market. This is the first 2-day market that I have done this year. Okay, so it is a few days after the market. This was very interesting. The market went pretty well, but like everything else was going crazy. So it was just so much stuff going wrong, but the market ended up going pretty good. So this is going to be a 2-part video. So this video will be of the first day of the market, which is Saturday, and the next video will be the second day of the market, which was Sunday. So it was kind of confusing in the way that all of us thought that we had to set up on Friday a day early and leave our tents there, and it ended up then one of the people in charge said that we didn't even have to set up early, we could have just done it on Saturday. So I wish that there would have been a better communication about that, but it still went pretty good. We just set up the tent and the tables the first day, and then we had to buy some tarps and zip tie those to the sides of the tent to close it so that no one could steal it or steal the tables underneath. And so then on a Saturday, the first day of the market, whenever we got there, I thought that it was going to take multiple trips to get everything there, but somehow we were able to stack everything onto the cart and get it there in one trip. So I had to take a picture of it. It just looked so crazy, but it ended up working to take everything in one trip, which was nice. And then I went ahead and got set up, and I'll go ahead and put in the video of my booth before the market. So this is how I set up my booth this time. We did go ahead and leave 2 of the tarps on the walls just to block the sun and some of the wind. I think at one point we did move one of them and we just kept the back one on. But I had a pretty good stock on most of my items. Except the Loaf cats, I only had 1 medium and 2 large. And once the event officially started, there weren't too many people walking around, so I wanted to go check out who all was there, and I had a few of my friends that were vending there also. And then I got to meet one of my online crochet friends, and so she owns Tinkering Crochet, and so we have like talked a lot on Instagram and we follow each other, and I finally got to meet her, which was cool. I did not know that she was going to be there, so that was pretty exciting. And so she let me get a video of her booth so I can show you guys her stuff also. So this is what her booth looked like, and she had so many cute plushies and a lot of little items that were really, really cute. These are her socials. I'm also going to tag her in the description so you can find her there as well. And surprisingly, there were only 2 food trucks at this event, which usually I would expect a lot more, but I guess because this was an arts festival, they didn't have as many. And so anyways, I got some nachos for lunch and I took a picture of them. I did not expect them to be that big, but it was Philly cheesesteak nachos and they were really good. I forgot to get the name of the food truck though, so I'll see if I can find it. If I can, then I'll put it in. And I'll go ahead and get into everything that sold in just a minute, but I did want to let you guys know that we did have to close early this day because it was raining. So it just started sprinkling a little bit, but they saw on the radar that there was a big storm coming and it said it might have hail. So they decided to close the event early and send everyone home just because we did not want to be in the storm, but also probably most of the customers wouldn't come because it was storming anyways. So we did leave early. I can't remember exactly how early we left. I want to say maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours before the market was supposed to end. So I was a little disappointed that we had to leave early because the market was going really, really good. But I knew that we had the next day, so it was okay leaving early. And I was super worn out afterwards. It was a really warm and humid day, so I was really hot and sweaty most of the day, and so I was glad to go home. But like I said, a lot of crazy things happened around this event, and one of those things is that my air conditioner broke on Friday. So Friday night after we got home from setting up the tent, which we were supposed to go to my cousin's graduation, but it ended up that it took longer to set up than I thought it would, and we weren't able to make it to the graduation in time, so we didn't go to that. And so when we got home, we were like, it feels kind of hot in here, and we looked and the thermostat was just off and it got like no power to the thermostat. So we even tried putting on our old thermostat and it got no power to it. So that was kind of crazy. So anyways, after this day on Saturday, I was so drained from being in the heat all day, and I was like, I'm just gonna go home and, you know, shower and then just rest in the cool air. And then I was like, wait, no, I can't even do that because the air conditioner is broken. So then I had to go home into a hot house after being in the heat all day, which was not fun. And so after the super long day and the air conditioner was broken and everything, I was so tired. I was ready to go to bed. And a few days before, I had picked up my medicine from the pharmacy, and when we went through the drive-thru, they just said there's three prescriptions for you, and they gave them to us. I assumed that those would be the right 3 prescriptions that I needed, but they were not, and I did not check them. Once I got home, I waited a couple days until I needed the pill. So it was time for me to go to bed, time for me to take my nighttime pill, and I open it and they're not in there. They gave me a different pill instead that I didn't need. And so then I was like, this pill is for like a multi-purpose pill. It is to prevent my migraines, and it is also to help me sleep. So I was like, I really, really need this because I have another big day tomorrow, and I do not want to have a migraine. That would not be fun at all, to have a migraine during a market. And I was like, I'm not going to be able to sleep either if I don't take the pill. So it was like, I think like 11 o'clock at night at this point, and we were trying to figure out the air conditioner. We couldn't get it fixed, so we decided to go to sleep. And then that happened, and I realized I didn't have my medicine that I needed, so I had to call the pharmacy. Well, I was on hold for over 30 minutes with the pharmacy, and I eventually was like, let's just drive over there because I don't think that they're going to answer. And luckily it is a 24-hour pharmacy, so we were driving over there, and then they finally answered on the way there, and I told them what happened, and they were just like, okay, we can fill your prescription. It'll be about 45 minutes. And I was like, 45 minutes? Like, if you would have just answered when I first called, then it would be ready by the time I get there. So we had to wait a little bit to get them. So anyways, I'm pretty sure it was like past midnight by the time I was able to go to sleep. And then there was still no air conditioner, so it was very uncomfortable sleeping even with my pill. So like I said, it was just so crazy. Like, the market itself actually went well, but everything surrounding that this weekend was like insane. And then that's not even the end of it. Like, after the market on the second day, even more stuff happened. So I will tell you about that in the next video. But I will go ahead and get into what I sold on the first day. On the first day, the market was supposed to go from 10 until 6 p.m. and we did have to leave early because of the rain. But I kind of mark each hour and sometimes every half hour just to see how much I'm making in each hour, and I like to keep track of it that way. And then I add it up as I go. So I had I had a few new items, but I had one new item that I just made the night before and decided to put it out because I thought it was really cute. And it was a mini rooster, and I thought it was super, super cute, so I figured it probably would sell, but I didn't expect it to be the first thing to sell, but it was. So the first order I had, they got the mini chick and the mini rooster together, so it was 24 total. They are 12 each. And since that one sold, then once I got a chance, I started making a second one. Actually, the only yarn that I brought this day to work with was the yarn for the rooster because I assumed that it probably would sell. So I started making another one right after that one sold. The next person got my elephant, which I was really excited to sell. I've had it for a while and I just think it is super cute, and I think maybe the reason people aren't getting it is because it is pretty dark and my tablecloths are black, so it's kind of hard to see it. It doesn't pop out as much as the bright items. And then that person also got 5 of my pins, and so those sold together for $35. The pins are $2 each, and I believe the elephant was $25. The next thing that I sold was a little bunny, and this is one that I made for my video where I was testing out all the different bunny patterns to find my favorite. And this is a no-sew bunny. It's called the Jellybean bunny, and it's a free pattern, and this one sold for $15. And next I sold my whale keychain, and it sold for $12. This was the only one that I had for this market. It was on my list of things to make before this market, and I did not get around to making the whales, and I kind of wish I would have because I think that I probably would have sold quite a few more, but I didn't get around to it, so I just had that one to sell. And at this point we are at 11 a.m. so that was the first hour. Now the first hour was kind of slow. There weren't a ton of people there walking around yet, and so at this point we have made $86 in the first hour. And then from 11 to 11:30 I sold quite a few items. The first thing I sold was a popping mushroom, and this was the one with the green variegated yarn, and it sold for $15. Next I sold one of my Aura the bunny, and this was a light purple variegated one, and I was really glad to sell this one. I have been making a lot of these lately because they sell really good for me at markets. And that sold for $40. Then I sold an Octo, and it was a purple one, and it sold for $12. Next I sold a large gray variegated cat for $30, and this one was an old one. It was an old pattern that I used to use before the Loaf cat pattern, and at the beginning of this market, I told my dad, I really just want to get rid of this one, and I hope it sells today. I just don't want it anymore. I do not think it's cute, and I don't want it anymore. I don't want it at my booth. So I was super excited when a kid came up and that was his favorite out of everything. And so I told them, I was like, I will take $5 off of it for you just because I really wanted it to go. I didn't tell them that, but he loved it. It was his favorite one there. So I was really happy with that. And then I sold my little mouse, and this one I made a while ago, and I don't think I ever put it out at a market until my one market before this one I had put it out. And so there was a group of people that came, and one of them just really loved it, and so their friend bought it for them. And so that one I sold for $22. And then it was kind of strange. I had a drop in sales. There were still some people walking around, but I was not making sales for a while. So between 11:30 and 12, I didn't make any sales. And then between 12 and 1, I actually only made one sale, which was kind of strange. But I was thinking maybe a lot of people were like going to eat lunch or something, and then they would come afterwards. So the only thing that I sold between 12 and 1 was a mini Octo, and this was a pink sparkly velvet one. Now, this is the only one that I have made in this yarn. This is the Juicy Couture velvet yarn, and I originally got it to make scrunchies, and I wasn't really using it for that, so I kind of just wanted to try it out and see how it would work as a plushie, and I do think it turned out pretty cute, and so I might even make some more of them with the velvet yarn in the future. So now it is 1 p.m. and the first thing I sold was another mini rooster. So I finished the one that I started and I put it out, and it sold practically immediately. And so I was happy about that, but that meant that I had to start making another one again, and that sold for $12. Then I sold one of my mini cats, and this was the black variegated one. It is this yarn up here. It is a mystical yarn from Bernat Blanket. And so that sold for $15. Next, I sold one of my axolotls, and this was a pink one, and it sold for $20. Then I sold another one of my small cats. I wrote down that it was a light pink variegated. I think it was like the light rainbow one, I'm pretty sure. And so that sold for $15. And now we are at 2 p.m. and our total is $279, which is great. In between 2 and 2:30, I sold quite a few items. So the first person got a small cat and an Octo, and they were both matching the light purple variegated, and those sold for $27 total. Then I sold another one of my pins, and this was the spider pin, and it sold for $2. And I definitely realized at this market that I need to get some more pins made because I am running very low on most of them. So I actually have one of my friends has a button maker, and she makes them for me. So I am definitely going to email her soon, and hopefully she can make some more for me before my next market. And then the next person bought, I believe, 5 items, and she got them for her kids to give to their friends for the last day of school, which I thought was really sweet. So they each got to pick one for their best friends, and I put them each in an individual bag so that they could just give it to their friends in the bag on the last day of school. So the first thing they got was another mini rooster. So I finished the second one that I was making and put it out, and almost immediately they got it. The second thing that they got was an Octo, and it was a pink one. They also got a popping mushroom, and it was a red one. And then they got a mini chick, and they got another Octo, but I didn't write down which color that one was. It was kind of just like happening so fast that I didn't get to write down every single thing. So anyways, those sold in total for $63. And now we are at 2:30. In between 2:30 and 3, I only sold a few items. The first thing I sold was another mini chick, and it sold for $12. So at this point I realized I needed to make some more for the next day. So I started kind of making a list in my mind of what I needed to make that night to have ready for my second day of the market. And then I sold one of my little flower guys. The pattern is called the Buttercup Bud, and I didn't write down which one it was, but if I remember correctly, I think it is the one with like the yellow variegated yarn around the face, and that one sold for $20. And now we are at 3 p.m. and our total is $403, which is great. I was super happy with how much I was making and how much I was selling. It was pretty hot out, so I was physically uncomfortable, but it was going really well. And so once again, I was making another rooster and I put it out, and then I sold that one. So I sold a rooster, and that same person also got a, they also got an axolotl, and it was the pink speckled one. And so those sold together for $32. And then I went ahead and put out a penguin at this market. I was going to just save it for like winter markets, but I thought that maybe someone would want it, so I put it out, and there was a little girl that absolutely loved it, and so she got the penguin and it sold for $20. So the next thing I sold was another small cat, and it was the light rainbow one, and it sold for $15. So I noticed at this market the cats were still very popular, as they usually are for me, but I noticed that the not realistic cat colors were selling better at this market specifically, like the rainbow ones or blue or whatever. Those ones were selling more than just like the traditional natural cat colors. And the next thing I sold was another small cat, and it was the white speckled one. And then I sold one of my bandanas, which I was really glad to sell. I actually didn't realize how many of them I had, and I just kept making more and more because I really enjoy making them. And then I looked at my inventory and I realized I had a ton of them, so I was really glad to sell one. And I'm thinking I might sell some on my Etsy soon, because I think that would be pretty simple to ship for Etsy, where the plushies I'd have to get like all different sizes of boxes and stuff. But anyways, so I sold a camo one, and it sold for $35. And then a little girl came up, and she only had $20, but she really wanted 2 items, so I went ahead and gave her $5 off. So she got a popping mushroom, and I did not write down which color it was. And then she also got a mini Octo, and it was a pink one. And part of the reason why I decided to give her the amount off, which I normally don't do discounts, just because this is my business and I have to price enough where I can actually make some money. But anyways, one of the reasons why I did do this was because it was an older Octo. It was like one of the first ones I made, and it was with the stiffer texture. So I was like glad to get the old one out of my inventory. And then I sold another small cat again, and this one was a tan variegated one. Now, I didn't write down if it was the light tan or the dark tan, because I have 2 tan variegated ones, but it was one of those, and it sold for $15. And now we are at $330, and our total is $545. Next, I sold 2 of my pins and 2 of my stickers for $10, and for all of them, they were my dog design. So I was kind of glad to sell those. I usually sell my axolotl sticker a lot more than I sell the dog one, so I was glad that somebody really liked that design and decided to get those. Next, I sold a large loaf cat, and this was kind of a bittersweet moment. I really love this one. This is probably my favorite loaf cat I have ever made, so it was a little sad to part with it because I really liked it, but I was glad to sell it. And so this was the one with the white and then the black speckled spots, and it sold for $40. And now we are at 4 p.m. So at 4, our total is $595, so super close to $600. Next, I sold a pink axolotl, and it sold for $20. Then I sold another pop mushroom, and this was the light rainbow one, and it sold for $15. Next, I sold my stingray, which I was really glad to sell. I think I've maybe only put this one out at like 1 market. I don't know why. I just didn't put it out much, and it's kind of an older item that I made a while ago. So I was glad to sell it. I hadn't put it out in a very long time, so I was glad that it sold the first time that I put it out. And that same person also got a mini Octo, and this was the blue speckled one made with the Sweet Snuggles light. And so those sold together for $35. The Octo was $10, and the stingray was $25. And then the last thing that I sold on the first day was another popping mushroom, and it was another green variegated one, and it sold for $15. So I actually did mark down what time this was. It was at 4:25 is whenever we left early. That's when we stopped taking the orders and packed up for the first day. So they told us that we could leave everything set up if we wanted to. We had to sign a paper that they weren't liable if anything was stolen or damaged though, and they said they would have a police officer there to watch the area. But I'm just not trusting with my stuff. Like, I have so much product that I do not want to leave it there. I do not want a chance for it to get stolen or damaged, especially with the rain coming. And the way that this market was set up is it was down one street. So it was one very long street. And so if the police officer was just like sitting there, he probably wouldn't really be able to see all of the booths at once. Where if it was like in a parking lot or something where they're set up more like in a square or something, then maybe he would be able to see all of them. But I felt like the way that it was, like if he was sat on one end, he would not be able to see all the tents on the other end. So I kind of just decided that I didn't want to leave anything. I just left the tables and the tent again. And so we had to zip tie the tarps on it again. And because the storm was coming, we decided to put the tent down really low to, so that hopefully, you know, wind wouldn't try to catch underneath it and pull it up. And so I did take a picture of after we put the tarps on, and it was raining at this point. So we did get kind of wet, but it wasn't like a ton of rain yet. The storm didn't quite get there, and so it was okay. And then it ended up, the storm like pretty much missed us, which was crazy. But we saw on the news where the storm did hit, there was actually a bunch of hail, and it was actually softball sized hail. So that is crazy. I'm really, really glad that that storm skipped over us and it did not hit us, because that would have been really bad for a lot of people if it did. Okay, so the total for the first day, we made $680, which was really, really good. I was super happy with this. I think that was really good, especially for leaving early. So I guess we left about an hour and a half early. So cutting off an hour and a half of the market and still being able to make that much money, I was very, very happy with that. But I did realize that I was running low on quite a few things, so I made a list of stuff that I wanted to try to crochet that night to have ready before the next day. But I realized that I was out of safety eyes, which is not good. I almost like never run out because I always order it beforehand. But I made so many things in the like couple of days before the market to prepare that I used up all of my safety eyes, except for like a couple pairs. So I needed to order some. And when I went to order it on Amazon, it said that I had to spend like $25 to get the shipping overnight. And I needed the overnight shipping because if I just got regular shipping, it might like end up there at the end of the market. Like I might not get it before. So I needed it overnight. So anyways, I had to like add extra stuff to my cart to get it high enough. But I was able to get it the next day so that I could finish stuff. And I ended up just finishing them at the market the next day. I didn't like wake up early to get them done or anything. I just did it while we were at the market. So I will go ahead and put in the video of my booth after the market. Now I did restock some stuff multiple times. Some of the smaller items I had extra backup of, and then I did put out a few new items I think that I didn't have out in the beginning of the day as I sold some more items. So it doesn't look super empty, but I did sell quite a bit. This is what my booth was looking like at the end of the first day. So you can tell a few things are running low, like my cats. Only had 3 of the little ones, 1 large and 1 medium left. And you can tell some things are missing. And I think I will go ahead and end this video here. And then my next video will be the part 2 of this video, so you can see how the second day went. So if you want to see that one, make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss it. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like so YouTube will show it to more people. And over here, I will go ahead and put up a video of everything that I made last month so you can see some of the items that I made for this market. And then over here, I will put up a video that YouTube suggests just for you. And if you watch the video all the way until the end, please go leave a heart in the comments so I know that you watched it, and I really, really appreciate you. Thanks for watching.